Okay, let's jump right in. We're talking about Meta today.
Oh,
Facebook and this massive antitrust trial they're facing.
absolutely. It really could be a decade-defining case.
Yeah, it's all about those big acquisitions, Instagram and WhatsApp,
Mhm.
and whether they were, well, fair play. It feels like it could change the whole Silicon Valley growth model.
It really could. And look, this isn't just some corporate fight. It's fundamental antitrust stuff, preventing monopolies, keeping competition alive.
Yeah.
So for you listening, we're going to cut through the legal weeds and the news noise today.
Right.
We'll lay out the core arguments, what could actually happen, and maybe some twists based on, the reports and legal takes we've been looking at.
Exactly. So our mission, pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Were those buys anti-competitive? That's the big question.
Right.
And what does the outcome mean? Not just for Meta, but for you using these platforms every day.
So let's get to the heart of it. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, they've made a pretty serious charge here.
Hmm.
They're saying when Meta bought Instagram, that was what, $1 billion in 2012?
Yes, sounds right.
And then WhatsApp for a massive $22 billion in 2014. These weren't just smart buys.
Okay.
The FTC's view is they were specifically designed to, and this is their phrase, kill competition before it could grow.
Wow. So basically buy out the threats instead of competing.
That's the core argument, a shortcut, you could say.
And the FTC isn't messing around with the potential fix, are they? They want more than just a fine.
No, not at all. They're actually asking a federal judge to make Meta sell off Instagram and WhatsApp.
Sell them off. That's huge.
It's absolutely massive. I mean, if the government actually wins this,
Yeah.
we could be looking at the biggest tech breakup since AT&T way back when. The scale is just enormous.
Okay. So what specific actions, what evidence does the FTC have to back this up? Let's dig into that.
Well, the FTC's case hinges on timing and potential. They argue Meta bought Instagram and WhatsApp when they were sort of rising stars.
Small but growing threats.
Exactly. Small but threatening. They weren't just tiny startups. The FTC says they showed real potential to challenge Facebook in that personal social networking space.
And I heard they might have internal emails. That always seems to be the smoking gun in these things.
Oh, that's a fascinating part. The FTC claims they do have internal emails. Stuff where Mark Zuckerberg and other execs supposedly said pretty directly it was better to buy than compete.
Wow. Okay. If that's true, that sounds pretty damning.
It definitely sounds like strong evidence suggesting the intent wasn't just business synergy, but actually removing rivals.
So the FTC sees this as a pattern, not just one-offs.
Precisely. They're arguing it was part of a larger playbook.
A playbook.
Yeah, a systematic approach. Identify emerging threats in social networking, then neutralize them before they get too big, before they could really challenge Facebook's dominance.
And the FTC claims this had real consequences for users, beyond just less choice.
Absolutely. That's key to their argument. They say by doing this, Meta basically cornered the personal social networking market. Okay.
And that, they allege, led to bad stuff for us, like worse privacy standards, maybe less innovation overall, because who would dare compete?
Right. Discouraging startups. And wasn't there a statistic about how much of the market they controlled?
Yes, a pretty striking one. The FTC claims that between 2012 and 2020, Meta had something like 80% of user engagement in this market.
80%. Yeah, that sounds like the kind of thing antitrust laws are meant to address.
Exactly. That level of control is right at the center of the FTC's concern.
Okay. So that's the FTC's case laid out. But Meta isn't just taking this lying down, obviously. What's their defense strategy?
Right. Meta's main pushback is all about how you define the market. They're saying the FTC's definition, personal social networking, is just way too narrow.
Too narrow. How so?
Well, their counter is that they compete in a much, much bigger digital world. It's not just about Facebook versus Instagram anymore.
So who do they say their competitors are?
They point to, the big names. TikTok, YouTube, Snapchat, even X, what used to be Twitter.
Yeah. Their argument is, look at where people actually spend their time online. It's spread across all these platforms. So in that broader view, they say, we face tons of competition. We're definitely not a monopoly.
That's an interesting angle, defining the battlefield differently. And they also argue they actually helped Instagram and WhatsApp succeed, right?
Exactly. That's the other major pillar of their defense. Meta's lawyers argue that without Meta's money, their resources, their infrastructure, Instagram and WhatsApp just wouldn't have scaled to become the giants they are today. They needed Meta's backing to reach that level.
So basically, we didn't kill innovation, we funded it. We scaled it.
That's pretty much the core message. They're trying to frame it as being catalysts for growth, not destroyers of competition. It's a strong counter-narrative.
Okay, now this case also has this sort of political wrinkle, doesn't it? The Trump factor that people mention. What's going on there?
Yeah, that adds a whole layer of unpredictability. So remember, this case was originally filed back in 2020.
Right, under the Trump administration.
Correct. And even then, apparently, there wasn't total agreement within the FTC. Some Republican commissioners reportedly had reservations.
Interesting. And now, with Trump back in the White House, his interest has supposedly picked up again.
That's what's being reported. There's talk of conversations between President Trump and Mark Zuckerberg. And given Trump's history of accusing Meta of, censoring conservatives,
Right, I remember that.
there's speculation now. Could he push for a settlement? Maybe one easier on Meta? Or even try to get the FTC to drop the case entirely?
Wow, so politics could directly influence this major antitrust case.
It certainly introduces a big question mark. Nothing's happened yet, obviously.
Yeah.
But just the possibility of political intervention hanging over everything, it makes the outcome much harder to predict.
Definitely adds drama. Okay, so let's play out a scenario. Let's say the FTC wins round one. They convince the judge the acquisitions were anti-competitive. What happens next?
Okay, so if the FTC wins that initial argument, the case moves to a second stage. That stage is all about the remedies.
Remedies. And that's where the selling off comes in.
That's exactly where the forced sale of Instagram and WhatsApp becomes a very real possibility.
A forced sale. It's still hard to wrap my head around. What would that actually do to Meta?
Oh, the impact would be absolutely massive. Just think about Instagram. Some estimates say it brings in over half of Meta's ad revenue in the US.
Over 50%.
Yeah.
Just from Instagram.
Yeah. So losing Instagram, it would be like Apple suddenly having to sell the iPhone division. It fundamentally changes the company.
And you have to assume Meta wouldn't just roll over. They'd fight that.
Oh, absolutely. They would almost certainly appeal any kind of divestiture order.
So this could drag on for years more.
Easily. This wouldn't be a quick fix. Even if the FTC wins initially, we'd be talking about a long, drawn-out legal battle.
And the ripples wouldn't stop at Meta, would they? The whole tech industry must be watching this very closely.
That's a really crucial point. Just the idea that a company could be forced to break up like this. It's sending, well, shockwaves, as they say, through Silicon Valley, through Wall Street.
Investors must be nervous.
Understandably. It sets a potential precedent for any big tech company looking to acquire smaller players in the future.
Which brings us neatly to the bigger picture, the broader implications for regulating big tech. You called this a defining moment earlier. Why so significant?
Well, for years, a key growth strategy for tech giants has been buying up promising startups, acquiring them before they become, real competitors.
The buy rather than build approach.
Exactly. It's fueled a lot of their growth. But now the FTC is basically saying, hold on, maybe that strategy itself, acquiring potential rivals, is actually predatory. Maybe it's illegal.
So the fundamental question is, will the courts agree? Will they put the brakes on this acquisition-driven growth model?
That's the crux of it. Will the FTC succeed in rolling back this common strategy, or is this trial just going to be sort of another chapter in the ongoing debate about innovation versus monopoly power in tech?
It feels like the answer will shape the tech landscape for a long time.
Absolutely. The outcome here will have really profound, lasting implications for how tech companies operate, how they compete, and ultimately how the digital marketplace evolves.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. The core conflict. FTC says Meta bought rivals to kill competition, hurting users. Meta says, no, the market's huge, we compete fair and square, and we actually help Instagram and WhatsApp grow.
That sums up the central clash perfectly.
And the outcome, whatever it is, could seriously reshape big tech and, the apps and services we all use.
Couldn't have said it better. And for you listening, the stakes are actually pretty high. This could affect the platforms you use, your data privacy, the pace of innovation, the choices you have online. It touches a lot.
Which leaves us with a final question, maybe something to chew on after this. Does our current legal system, designed maybe for railroads or oil companies, does it really work for today's super-fast digital world, with its network effects and unique dynamics? Or do we need totally new rules, new ways to think about competition and innovation in tech?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There are no easy answers there. But this case definitely forces us to ask it.